where do you think temptation would have led you, or do you think you would have made the same decision with the sand in the ground, or was it having a committed, conscious, loving relationship and partner and teammate that allowed you to have the courage to act with that line in the sand?
Well, the only reason I pause here is because I'm trying to wonder how little of credit to give the relationship, because I'm not going to say it's 100%, but it's up there. The relationship, having her and now about to become a father, which was the only thing I ever wanted to be, had great resonance for me. I, one, had a relationship which gave me, just singularly with Camilla, gave me more license and courage to fly. But now I'm going to become immortal, so to speak, with a child coming into the world. Right. So one thing I ever dreamed of being, become a father. That's was at the top of my list since I was a kid. Now I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing. This part of life has always taken precedent before anything I did since got famous, won this or won that. My career was always in front of a Hollywood career. Always. That's what I mean by J.K. living. That's why just keep living has always been sort of a mantra. What at the end of the day, they argue with that one. At the end of the day, that wins out. I've always wanted to have a life that I'm leading first. And I became an actor and a movie star and famous, but not, I'm an actor, movie star and famous. So now what do I do? How do I live my life according to that? No, I wanted to keep those in order.
If you didn't have that relationship at that time, what do you think would have happened?
That's a good question. What would have happened?
Do you think it would have been more tempting to take the money and let me just...
the nights would have been even longer. I think it would have definitely got more wobbly. I would have really had to... I believe I could have pulled it off. I'm glad I didn't have to find out if I could have pulled it off on my own. I might have run off to the monastery and still be there. Or because I had very somewhat reliable temptation from people very close to me going, what's your malfunction, bro? Right. My brothers and family were like, what is your major malfunction? What are you doing? You own this land in the wrong, but why are you making a straight line crooked, which is a line we always use? Why are you making this complicated? Do you know how many people would dream to even be doing this? And so I did have that understanding, which I bring up in the book, about being less impressed and more involved. I was very thankful. I was never disrespecting the rom-com. I was just like, I don't know. I didn't make this up, this feeling in me.
Yeah, you're in a new season.
Well, more, and there's a new chapter to come. So what would I be doing now if I didn't have Camilla and we didn't have our first child on the way? I don't know. That 20 months would have felt like 20 years if I'd have stuck with it. And would I have had the patience? Would I have had the fortitude? Would I have been able to stay still in the long, lonely nights where I didn't feel like I had purpose, where I didn't feel significant, where I didn't have a newborn child in a relationship to look at and go, because I knew then, I was like, you put time into that, you cannot go wrong.
Right.
I looked at my newborn child, I looked at Camilla, I was like, you put time into this, you are in the black, bro. There is no debit, no matter how much. You can't overdo that. Yeah. So that gave me something. If I didn't have that, no, I'm not sure.
16 years you said you've been together, right?
Yeah.
16 years. There's a lot of men that are driven men. I'm in LA, so I see this in LA where they feel like they need to be single for a long time, or they need to jump from partner to partner, or have multiple partners at the same time, all these different things. No judgment, no right or wrong here, but I'm curious, what have you learned about 16 years in a relationship that has taught you about how much more successful you can be in other areas of life versus single life when you were also extremely successful, but maybe there was something missing, emotionally or spiritually?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna piggyback on where you first started. I've got friends that are poly, and I've got friends that are perpetually single, and to see them when they do pull it off and still have a healthy spirit and a healthy body and a healthy mind, I applaud it. Right on. I have seen a lot of them have to, I got to recalibrate. I got off. I got spread too thin.
Energy everywhere.
One bunch of little campfires, but no bonfires, right? You can do it. I think a person can do it on their own. I think a person can do it in solitude. I think a person can do it even with a relationship with just themselves, if you think it can be done. But when you have a relationship that you're committed to, that you want to make work, that it's part of your decision, and especially when you have a child that is not only you're committed to, you is dependent on you, that goes to the top of the value system. And so career choices can go into the 2-hole or maybe the 3-hole. Now, I would argue that I got better at my career when it went to the 2 and 3-hole and wasn't in the 1-hole.
Really?
Because I didn't, and I feared this. I was like, well, I was having a family, and the fact that when we had kids, my wife said, if we have kids on one condition, Matthew, when you go, we go. So my family comes with me. When she said that to me, I remember going through my mind, wait a minute, I'm an artist. I'm a lone wolf. When I go to work, I'm in my Airstream all alone. It's me and my dog, maybe. But nobody else. And as I'm saying that in my head, this other little smarter voice comes in and goes, nod your head and say, yes, ma'am. And I said, yes, ma'am. It was the greatest decision I've ever made.
Right.
Because seeing my kids or leaving before they woke up and seeing them when I got home after work was a beautiful, energizing reset for me at the end of the day that filled me up with real life and made me more creative going into work the next day. To tell a child when you're doing something like True Detective and they go, what was the scene about today? And you go, I better tell a good parable because I can't tell them the real thing. It's some heavy R stuff, right? So I became a better storyteller and how I'd make it a nursery rhyme or something. But you're living for something, for someone else and something more. And, for Camilla and I, living for the covenant that for her and I to do what we can to stay together and keep promoting each other and ourselves in a relationship, and then to have the kids. You're living for something else. And that empowered me and made me better as an individual. Really? And when I go out the door, I have more courage because I know I've got that stability at home.
Wow. Where do you think you would have been if you would have been in a relationship, 5-10 years prior?
Yeah.
And it'd be 25 years as opposed to 16. Do you think you would have been better in your career, or you'd made that shift sooner? Or do you feel like, being the lone wolf, you had its time and its place? And I
think it had its time and its place. I'm not arrogant enough to say, if I go back and change time. I've thought about that. I was with and dated seriously some wonderful women before I met Camilla. I think it wasn't the time for me, and it wasn't the time for them for us to take it further, to take it as far as, say, getting married or something. But I often wonder, what if I felt like it was time that early? I never did. Right. What if I did? Do we meet the right person sometimes, but it's just not the time for us?
Interesting.
Do we or is it's the two play? It's got to be the right person and the right time for each person. Yeah. But I know I cannot go back. Going forward's a mystery, looking back's a science. When I connect the dots, I don't dare to go back and go, if I had changed 10 years earlier, I'm thinking about who I was dating. If we'd got married, who knows? I don't think it would have been the same realization 10 years earlier. I was a different man.
Yeah. I
was seeing the world differently. And we'll never know, but I think it was the right time for me when this happened. And my single years were the right amount of time for me when I was there. Sure. And those relationships before that ultimately ended, that was the right time for them to end.
So how old were you when you met your wife?
We're 16, 53, 40, 37.
37. So when you were 37, before the moment you met her, which I think you met her at a bar on Sunset.
Club on Sunset.
Sars Club on Sunset.
Club.
Let's call it that morning.
Don't go to many clubs. Glad I went to the club this night.
Yeah, it was good. Let's call it that morning or that season right before you met her.
Yeah.
What was it that made you feel loved then?
Yep.
And what is it today that makes you feel the most loved today?
Okay. What does it make me feel the most loved before?
Yes.
About her? Okay. When I was spiritually strong. And look, I had some relationships that were loving relationships that or I loved the woman she loved and cared for me. And those were real.
Yes.
I also had a season where it was just affairs. It wasn't about love. It was lust.
It's fun. Yeah.
It was fun, and it was a healthy, fun transaction. And we laughed and kept it light, and that was all it was ever going to be. And we're not even, and that was okay too. I am happy to say that through most of that, I was able to keep somewhat spiritually strong.
Really?
How
did you stay?
And didn't really have trouble sleeping alone in my own bed, because I've had those times. I think we all have, if we've had this single life, where there's times where if you're rolling like that, especially if it's like affairs and flirt popping around here and there, boy, all of a sudden you end up in bed alone. You can't sleep. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Now I'm the company I can't stand being with. If it's only me, that would always be a trigger for me. Like, you better bend a knee and go
inward.
Catch your breath and go inward here.
Yeah.
So
what made you feel the most loved before you met her?
What was it? I mean,
was it the success or the fame?
No,
was it the chase? Was it the,
No, it wasn't the chase and catch. I knew what that was. That always felt like a stop and not a stay. To me, it was a season.
Yeah.
I understood it to be a season. And I gave myself freedom and license to have that season as healthily as I could. I don't think I was any more shallow.
Right.
I didn't think, oh, this is all there is. I did have a dream where I thought, where I was 80 and 88-year-old bachelor, but had a lot of children.
You did?
Yeah, and it wasn't a nightmare.
88-year-old bachelor? And you got a lot of children. And that wasn't
sitting
a nightmare?
on a porch, and it wasn't a nightmare.
Really?
And I woke up from that dream not going, yippee, that's what I'll do. I did wake up with it going, that's possible. And as soon as I said, that's possible, I did quit looking so hard. And when I quit looking for her so hard, that's when she came. Because before that, I will say, in my thought of, I do want to find someone to fall in love with and start a family. I mean, every red light, bro.
In LA?
Possible. Produce section. You know what I mean? Possible.
Yeah.
Every, you just
yoga class, Whole Foods.
You're just checking, everywhere. And I was looking. I was leaning in and said, well, maybe that could work. Like that script. Well, maybe that could work. And then when I had that dream, it was like, oh, on a spiritual sense, I was like, well, you might end up being an 80-year-old bachelor. And if you're spiritually strong, your relationship with God's strong, that's okay. It didn't make me go, that's what I want to do.
Right.
But just saying that could be a reality for you, let me exhale, and I quit looking everywhere at every red light. I quit looking in the produce section. Was like, what happens when you do that? You become more attractive. You allow yourself to be loved. You allow yourself to see someone who actually you might love. But mainly you allow yourself to be someone that can be loved. And you're not soliciting yourself. You're not in a rush about anything. You're going to meet somebody. You also, what you look at, you want to see how they move. How far back are the shoulders? How do they talk? What do they say in between the lines? Not what they say. What do they say in between the lines? And I remember when I saw Camilla walk across the club that night, it was the way she moved. I saw history. I saw dignity. I saw somebody that was not for sale. I saw somebody that didn't need, that when I called her over was not happy to meet me, but wasn't impressed with my vocation. And she knew who I was. Wasn't impressed with that. She was about a lot more than that. So my eyes were open to seeing what I wanted and needed. And I also was able to, in that moment, completely be myself, not oversell myself, not undersell myself.
Did you feel like you needed to oversell yourself before then, even though you had all the success and the fame and the hits and the money? And
I think when it's a sped up process, you know, especially if you're like if it's a more of a string of short-term relationships. It's like, it's not overselling. It's just like, let's skip a lot of the real stuff. Let's skip a lot of the you know what I mean? I don't want to take that. Come on, we're just here. We're laughing. We're having a good time. You know what I mean? And that's all we're both in this for. So, you know, so you speed up the process a little bit. So I don't know. When you say, what did I love? It wasn't my fame. Did I feel more loved if my movie did well and more people came up and was like, that was great? Sure. Sure. But that was never my top source of
feeling love.
Affirmation of feeling love. Did I feel less loved if the movie bombed or if people were like, I don't like, sure. But that was never my
main thing.
The source of my lack of confidence or lack of significance. It was, maybe I was spiritual, and then I always had family at this time, being my brothers and my mom and stuff. There was always that that I knew was 100% reliable. But mainly I would say spiritual. And then your follow-up question to what makes you feel more loved now?
Yeah, when do you feel the most loved now?
Oh, the good night group hug with my 3 kids and my wife after we've just talked about what our day was like, what we're looking forward to tomorrow. And we've had a few fun disagreements, and somebody said something real honest that they didn't have the courage to say maybe a week before. And for the first time, noticed that if they shared that, they weren't going to get in trouble, that they were just going. And to see them grow and going, you got the courage. Then to feel like a dad and go, me and your mother are giving you a place to feel like you can go. I did like her, and my heart hurts because she doesn't like me. To be able to, for a child to be able to say that to you, it's like, okay, we're doing something right. There we go. That's a feeling of love. To have an honest talk, not just about all of the happy times, but about the stuff that sucks in my kids' lives as well. And even from my wife, to share it and it not be like dun 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 dun.
Right.
To be like, yeah, we're going through this, and one thing we know is we're going through it together. That's
beautiful. That's beautiful. One of the things that you talked about in the book, in the last couple of pages, was this list of goals that you wrote down. One of them,
isn't that wild?
10 goals in life, 1992.
92.
One of them, becoming a father, and number 2, finding and keeping the woman for me.
Yep.
And you got 10 of them. I'm curious, how important is it to write down our visions, our dreams, our goals in order to manifest what we want in our lives? Because this whole book is a journal of you writing down everything.
Yeah.
And all 10 of these, you've accomplished all of them. And you're still accomplishing and living into them.
Yep.
So how important is it to write down our dreams, our goals, our values in order to manifest and attract them?
I think it's a lot more important than we give it credit for. Look, writing things down, it seems like this old-fashioned sort of archaic thing. Just type it. It's on a screen. Put it on a Word doc. Save it. Put it in a folder. It can be lost back there. To actually write it with the hand is a different kind of objectivity you get, because it's come out of you. You've put it down. Now you're looking at it. It's outside of you. It's freed up now. It's alive. It's moving now. More so than having that goal by your bedside every night, which can be good. But to write it down, if you're writing down true goals, they become written in your lineage. They become written in your body, whether you know it or not, in your subconscious.
Interesting.
It's a way to get it into your subconscious, to write it down. Now it's out of me. It's on a page. I'm objectifying it now. I'm looking at it. So now I'm having a dialogue where before it was just Socratic. But now I'm having a dialogue and it starts to reciprocate. Those 10 goals, I wrote those down in the top bunk in the Dell House, University of Texas, 1992. My roommate was Monty Wills. I remember the night I wrote them down.
Wow.
I never looked at them again. I found those in writing this book and found out that, oh my gosh, all 10 you actually did and 4 you're still doing.
That's crazy.
Never looked at them again.
30 years later, you found them.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But they all happened.
They all happened. I don't think they happen if I don't write them down. I don't think they do. So that practice of writing something down that you into or that you want or that you yearn for, and to add to it or subtract from it along the way if you want to, or just write it down, fold it up, tuck it away so you can find it 30 years later when you go want to share a journal or write something about it, like I did. I don't think it happens, but then just go back and see the invisible contract I made with myself.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Because obviously I did. Because I mean, those 10, people go, you've done all 10. I said, well, no, I'm in the middle. I'm still maintaining 4, but
Yes.
I have engaged. Some of them I've just done. Mm-hmm. But I am in full engagement with all of them. That I was doing that to find an identity. And it's youth and the revolutionaries of youth do that. You try it out. Let's test it. I know this. It fails. Okay. To the next. Something I don't think we should forget as we get older. We just start to understand context and innuendo, and 2 things can be true